Shortly before the general elections, the British debt ratio, that means the debt in relation to GDP, is at its highest level in 60 years. The new government is therefore facing major challenges. And less than 2 weeks before the general elections, in which the governing Tories are threatened with extinction, the British national debt has indeed risen to its highest level in more than 60 years. In May, it reached £2.742 trillion, as the Statistics Office ONS announced in London. And the debt ratio is 99.8%. That's the highest value since 1961. A year earlier, it was 96.1%, and the rising national debt increases the financial challenges that the future government must face. General elections are scheduled for July 4th in Great Britain, and Keir Starmer's opposition Labour Party is banking on change after 14 years of chaos, as they describe the Conservatives' time in government because of Brexit, Partygate, and the Prime Minister Liz Truss, who sent the financial markets into a tailspin. Both parties promise not to raise income tax, VAT, or other important taxes. National debt in Britain has soared during the corona pandemic, and slow economic growth and the rise in interest rates, which the Bank of England has driven to a 16-year high in the fight against inflation, are also putting a strain on the state budget. Uncertain times require a clear plan and bold action. That is what Rishi Sunak says, and he has this plan, unlike the Social Democratic Party, the Labour Party, according to him. But why haven't they done it? But according to the polls, Labour is around 20 percentage points ahead of the Tories. The Conservatives, who have been in power since 2010, are therefore facing a bitter defeat in the election. Sunak himself has been in office since October 22 and is already the third head of government since the previous election in 2019 after Boris Johnson and Liz Truss. Debt has also risen sharply in most other Western countries recently. I won't keep that secret. Britain's debt level is lower than that of the United States, France, and Italy. And in the EU alone, 7 member states are facing criminal proceedings for taking on too much debt, or EU proceedings, not criminal. However, Germany's figures are much lower. Last year, liabilities here accounted for only 63.6% of GDP, and in 2024, according to forecasts by the Kiel Institute for the World Economy, this figure is expected to fall to 63.3%. Borrowing in the UK totaled £33.5 billion in the first 2 months of the new fiscal year, and that is 400 million more than in the same period in 23, but 1.5 billion less than the government's budget forecast in March. According to analysts at Capital Economics, this is due to less public investment, which is not so good, and this is not particularly positive. But I don't leave out any positive news as well, because the UK has had a sugar tax on sweetening drinks for 6 years. Although it's having an effect, the government has postponed further regulations, and even fast food entrepreneurs don't like that. But many Britons love soft drinks, but many Brits also way too much, and this is exactly where the sugar tax comes in. Officially, it's called the Soft Drinks Industry Levy. That means it's a tax that soft drink manufacturers have to pay on drinks that contain a lot of sugar. And the tax is staggered. From 5 grams of sugar per 100 milliliters, the tax is 18 pence per liter. From 8 grams, it's 24 pence per liter. Action on Sugar is campaigning for precisely this kind of government intervention here in Germany as well. The organization consists of doctors and scientists who warn of the negative consequences of excessive sugar consumption. And the tax is helpful, says nutrition expert Mahiri Brown, the spokesperson for Action on Sugar. It represents a great incentive for beverage manufacturers to reduce the sugar content in order to avoid the tax. And in fact, many manufacturers have reduced the sugar content of their soft drinks. In 2015, almost 50% of the drinks offered in supermarkets contained more than 5 grams of sugar per 100 milliliters, but in 2019, this figure was only 15%. In addition, a study by Cambridge University suggests that the sugar tax has reduced obesity among 10 and 11-year-old girls by 8%. The sugar tax is only part of a whole package with which the Conservative government has wanted to combat obesity in recent years. However, key components have been postponed further and further. And since autumn 22, supermarkets have no longer been allowed to place whimsical goods at the checkouts, for example. That's, those chocolate bars at children's eye level in the waiting area in front of the checkout. But the ban on tempting offers for junk food, originally planned for October 23, will now only come into effect in autumn 25. The government justified the postponement with the currently high food prices and the cost of living. The tempting offers include buy one, get one free offers, where, for example, if you buy a bar of chocolate, you get another one for free. And according to experts, offers of this kind almost double chocolate consumption. In the area of advertising too, progress has been slow so far. The plan was that unhealthy foods could only be advertised on television from 9 p.m. and not at all online. But this law has also been postponed until October 25. And nutritionist Mahira Brown believes that the justification that the food industry would need more time to prepare for this is just a pretext. She believes that the government has given in to the lobbyists. Henry Dimbleby also believes this. The author of several cookbooks and the co-founder of the fast food restaurant chain Leon, which offers healthier fast food, was once an advisor to the British Ministry of Agriculture and Food. He was supposed to help in the fight against obesity, but eventually gave up. Dimbleby accuses the government of failure. Winston Churchill described the health of the nation as its greatest asset. The role of government is to intervene to eliminate problems. But modern conservative ideology is that you can let everything run its course without ever intervening, he criticizes. It will be very damaging to the country if that doesn't change, he says. Dimbleby is certain that the British health system will face gigantic costs. In England, almost 1 in 4 10 and 11-year-old children is already obese, and 38% of this age group are overweight. And among adults, the figure is 64%. But this tax I mentioned earlier is actually something that is being discussed here in Germany following this example. The German Institute for Economic Research is calling for a graduated sugar tax based on the British model to be introduced in Germany as well. In a study, they came to the conclusion that too much sugar not only makes people ill, but also causes high costs for society as a whole. For example, through health insurance costs and lost work and tax revenue. So far, there are 9 federal states involved in that. That's Brandenburg, Bremen, Hamburg, Mecklenburg, Western Pomerania, Lower Saxony, Rhineland-Palatinate, Saarland, Saxony, and Thuringia. They issued a joint statement at the recently concluded Consumers Ministers Conference. It states that the federal government is being asked to examine the introduction of a tax on sugary soft drinks as a manufacturer-related levy. Despite voluntary commitments and promises from the industry, as they continue, the average sugar content of soft drinks in Germany, among other things, has not fallen to the extent that would be necessary for a healthy diet. Although we all know that there are enough alternatives for this, but I've recently seen a TV show dealing especially with that topic of a certain brand of cola, and their sugar variant is the most sold one in Germany, and the one I'm drinking with no sugar is just gets 15% of their sales. And so it's the people doing that. But nevertheless, that stuff is expensive already. And I know that there are some kind of hardcore fans that always want the sugar version. They will pay the higher price. So I honestly don't think that there will be a big difference in the sales at the end, but we will see. My home state of North Rhine-Westphalia has not been part of that group, and I can imagine that they are thinking in the same direction, because the alternatives are all available for the same price. And to be honest, it is very close to the same taste nowadays. And the people still want the original. So I personally doubt that a tax like this would work. But we will see if it comes. We will see in reality what happens. And if you want to know more, the next video is right here in the end screen. I'll see you there. I'll be back.